Happy March, everyone. I hope you are well. Now, if you remember last year, there was an episode, we had an episode on how to deal with different types of annoying classmates. Now, it's only fair that we continue on and talk about how to deal with different types of annoying professors. And like classmates who you can either avoid or ignore, professors are always there. You will always see them, and they're the one who are going to decide your grade. So when you end up with a very annoying professor, it's frustrating. It's just hard to deal with professors like that because you're so angry and they make you angry, and it's an entire big business when you have a professor who is annoying. So we're going to look at 5 types of annoying professors. I know the list is endless, but I'm sure right now you're probably thinking about a professor that is so annoying to you, but we'll see how we can deal with them. Now, I'm at 20 plus years of experience as a counselor. I've always advised couples who are not walking in love with each other to split up, part ways, meaning divorce. Excuse me, doctor, but don't you think for the sake of the couple, and also if they have any kids, it's always better and best to opt for reconciliation, because divorce is a hard thing to go through. What's your name? Christy? Well, Miss Christy, like I said, I have 20 plus years of experience and I've been very successful in my career. When you get to be more knowledgeable about this area and come to the level of my training, then we can talk. Now, the know-it-all professor is that professor that thinks she knows it all, and all the students are just there to learn and absorb her knowledge. This is a professor who never wants to admit that she's wrong, because she thinks that, hey, I have the degree and I'm here to teach you, so you guys do not have to tell me anything. You just have to listen and obey. With a professor like that, I would say just follow her instructions. Don't try to argue with her. Don't try to argue with her. Don't try to tell her that, hey, you're wrong, because she's never going to admit it. And a verse that I was thinking for this is Romans chapter 13. I know in Romans chapter 13 it's talking about authorities like kings, presidents, police officers, if we can extend it to that area, but we can also look at it in the sector of academics. Chapter 13 verse 1a says, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. Now, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. At the end of the day, whether you agree or not with that professor, she's still the professor. You still have to follow her instruction. You still have to do what she says. You still have to follow her rules, and you still have to show respect and not argue with her for the sake of you showing her that, hey, you're not saying the right thing. And another thing I wanted to add, depending on what course that professor is teaching, I would advise to keep your faith firm. For example, if that professor is teaching a biology course and she has all the proofs in the world that men come from evolution, and you know yourself that men come from creation, I mean, keep that belief firm. Stay firm in your belief. Don't be carried away by what she says, because she can bring all the evidence in the world to convince her students. But you have to pray to stay firm in the Lord, in your beliefs, to stay firm in your integrity, so that you will not be carried away. So sorry, guys. I'm so sorry I'm late again. Look, class, I've been trying to make it on time really hard. I've been trying really hard to make it on time, but this is what happens when you're trying to put marriage, motherhood, and career into one small basket. Miss Simba, have you graded our papers yet? Yeah, about your papers, I'm glad you mentioned that. About your papers, look, I'm halfway through completing them, okay? I'm halfway
That's
through.
what you said 2 months ago.
I know, but look, guys, it's not easy for me. I mean, just yesterday, my 3-year-old had an ear infection. I had to take her to the emergency room, and it was just too much going on there. Now that's a tough one. I remember in grad school, I had a professor who took an entire semester to return a paper that we had done early on in the semester. So we took an entire semester, and everybody was just fed up and frustrated with her because it's like, do you not care about us? I mean, what do we pay you for, you know? So for a professor like that, I would say pray, take that to the Lord in prayer. Rebuke, especially in your prayer points, rebuke that spirit of negligence and that spirit that is preventing her from doing her job correctly, because she needs to take her job seriously. I mean, you pay her, we pay that professor, so she needs to do her job seriously. Now, if she has taken it way too far to the extent that, you know, you and your classmates are just fed up that it's totally out there that this professor does not care about her work and does not take her work seriously, report her to the academic dean, because she's paid to do a job, so she has to do it well. And as a student, you need to know your status in the class, you know, how well you're doing. So take that to report her to the academic dean. I would just advise one thing. There is a tendency when we report professors to the academic dean that we, you know, start, you know, putting lies on top of lies and exaggerating matters. Just be careful about that. Make sure that you're truthful about the facts and that you're just reporting as a concerned student, as a responsible student, that hey, this is what's happening and we need a change. You need to talk to this professor. Okay, class, your homework for tomorrow is to do all the problems from page 30 to 42. You mean all of them? Yes. But professor, we have other classes too. Like I was saying, do all the problems from page 30 to 42. And someone was asking earlier about my office hours. I can only meet you once a week, and that's Tuesdays. My office hours are from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now, the uncaring professor, that was definitely my biology professor in college. I mean, this guy, oh my goodness, ladies, this guy was the most selfish person I have ever met. He thought about nothing else but himself. Every time I looked at him, I was just like, this guy is just here for his paycheck. He has no concern about the students. He does not care about anything but himself. And I was just so irritated at this guy, to the point that every time I would see him, I was like, I wish this guy could die. I know, this was me back then. It was me back then. But I was so angry at that guy because he couldn't, and when you asked a question, he made you feel dumb. Like, he would not even explain to the point that you understand. He just explained in his own manner. And even when you say, I didn't get what you said, the guy doesn't care. He just goes on. So I couldn't deal with the guy. I was just like, I just wish this guy can die. Please, Lord, do something to get rid of this guy, because he does not deserve to be here or to leave. But the verse I have in mind for this situation is Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 and verse 15. So we're going to read a little bit of verse 13, which says, bear with each other. And then going to verse 15, it says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. Now it says bear with one another, meaning be patient. Be patient with that uncaring professor, because sometimes we don't know people's background. We don't know, you know, what that professor's life is, or what situations led to his character or her character. So if we judge too quickly, then we're not patient with that person. I know that their behavior shouldn't be justified. It's totally not appropriate for a professor to be uncaring towards his students or her students, but just be patient. I mean, our Heavenly Father shows so much patience towards us. Even at times when we make the same mistake over and over again, He's still patient. Why can't we also replicate that patience towards others. Why can't we be patient with that and caring professor? And verse 15, that's why verse 15 also says, let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. We shouldn't let that professor irritate us. We shouldn't let that professor lead us to anger. But we need to be at peace. Ignore him, ignore her behavior. Don't let that get into you, but ignore. You need to be at peace. We need to be at peace. We need to be calm. We don't need them to affect our mood. We don't need them to affect our behavior, but we need the peace of Christ to rule in our hearts, to rule in our mind. And that's why it ends, that verse ends by saying, and be thankful. Now, it's easy to be thankful when you have a perfect professor, when you have a professor that does a good job, that teaches well, that is very supportive. It's very easy to be thankful. But what if the Lord has put that professor in your class to teach you, to teach me, to teach us to be thankful despite it all? What if, So we need to learn to be thankful in all circumstances, even when we have that kind of professor. We need to learn to be thankful and not complain. Good afternoon, Professor. I came to see you concerning my grade. I don't understand why I got a C when I did everything you instructed us to do. Well, it's not because you follow all my instructions that you're going to get an A, right? I know, but I just want to understand where I missed it. So you are questioning my grading ability? Is that what you're trying to do? Because all I can see here, you're just raising arguments and arguments. But that's what you asked us to do. I'm speaking. I mean, this isn't high school anymore. All you do here is raise arguments. If you can't write a decent paper at your level, then you shouldn't be here, and you shouldn't waste my time. I call this professor the devil's agent because you know that this professor's behavior is not normal. It might be flesh and blood that you're looking at, but behind, in the spiritual realm, these are evil spirits using that professor to discourage students, to tear down students, to break students' spirit. Now, with a professor like that, we can't even use any words, because the more you talk to a professor like that, the more you argue with a professor like that, the more she just provokes you to anger. This is just someone who just straight there, that there's something going on, there's something wrong with this professor. Now, a professor like that, I will greatly, highly advise you need to take a stand in prayer. You need to fight in your prayer time. You need to fight against those demonic entities using that professor, because this is what the Bible says in Ephesians 6:12. It's a passage we know well, which says that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So you need exchanging words will not do with someone like that, because you'll not change her. But you need to pray. You need to rebuke those spirits. You need to take a stand in prayer. Do not let a professor like that get to you, meaning get you angry or get you irritated. Excuse me, you just say we should take the square root of 25 for this problem, but why can't we just directly subtract by 5? It's a possibility. So should we take the square root or subtract? Let me think about it. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you next week. Now, this professor confuses you more than you already are. I mean, this is a professor who cannot grasp her own subject. She can't master her own subject. She doesn't even know what she's doing. She's completely all over the place. With a professor like that, do not rely on her. If she can't even rely on her own abilities, then you can't even rely on her. Look for outside help, either through friends, through classmates, other people who have taken the course who can explain it better to you, or online search. Do whatever you need to do. Pray for the Lord to provide you with someone to help you along, because you just can't follow that professor's advice or guidance or instructions. If it gets out of hand, that's the time when you need, you and your classmate need to report that professor to the academic dean. And sometimes when it happens, when you realize that you have a professor like that in the middle of the semester, sometimes the school cannot change the professor, so you just have to deal with that kind of professor until the rest of the semester. Pray for patience, pray for peace, that you will not be enraged every time you are in that class, or because that professor cannot explain it plain and simple and clearly to you. So to summarize the different approach that we can take towards our different annoying professors, I would say the most important thing is to pray. Prayer is key. Pray against those evil spirits using your professors. Take a stance, rebuke those spirits in prayer. Pray for yourself. Pray that you will be at peace, that you will not be shaken or overwhelmed or be torn down by any of your professors that frustrate you. And also the last thing I would say, like I mentioned before, if the professor's behavior is so overboard that it's just like, oh, there's no way this professor will change and his behavior is affecting the class, yeah, definitely go ahead and report that professor to the academic dean. Just make sure you do it in a truthful manner. Do not exaggerate things. Don't lie about things that are not happening, but just do it in a way that you are concerned as a student and you want to improve in your class. So do it that way. I pray that you have a way to deal with your annoying professors, ladies, and you'll be able to do it in a way that honors the Lord, that pleases the Lord, and that also, brings you peace and also affects positively your classmates. Take care of yourselves, ladies, and always stay blessed.